But I want to call out a few things. First of all, the Boy Scouts of America. Thank you for sending me there. It helped mold me. I know it sounds cliche, but it really made a big difference, and I really enjoyed that time in my life. Driving to Nebraska, Mount Rushmore, the Badlands, that trip to see Aunt Betty and Uncle Al and the whole family was one of my favorite trips in my entire life, and I think we all had a pretty great time, for the most part. First time I ever saw a tornado forming, or it was a twister, we stood on their rooftop watching an air show, and I was like, what's that? And it was like a whirlpool in the sky. Scary stuff, but fun. Their visit, they came out to visit us in San Francisco 10 years ago, maybe? No,
20 years.
20 years ago, it was a while ago. I appreciate the trip. I walked to the Embarcadero Center with my mom from Japantown, and it's a good, mile walk, and we really reconnected and did a lot. It was great. It was great. The trip to West Point with my dad. We did this really simple trip one year, and he took me to West Point just to, I think we ate Burger King for lunch. But it was a really great trip. He just wanted to show me the commons, and we looked over the water, the Hudson. It was really beautiful. It was a really great day for me. Our wedding party a couple of years ago, that was awesome. It was great having them up there and some family. We had a really good celebration. They got to meet a lot of my friends, and it was just a really good day. And the trip to Cedar Point, Ohio. That was the first time I ever went on a roller coaster. And sadly for me, and great for Cheryl, I wasn't going to go on a roller coaster because I was scared to death of them. And Cheryl was like, oh, I'm going to go do that, screw this. And I was like, shit, I have to do it now. So if it wasn't for them taking us there and Cheryl making me look terrible, I would have never gone on a roller coaster. And I loved it. All the trips to Great Adventure when we lived on Staten Island, exit 7A on the New Jersey Turnpike, still remember it. That was really awesome. And Dad's retirement party on Staten Island. A lot of crazy stuff happened that night. I met someone who helped me as a kid. I was injured as a kid because of some crazy person who lived in the projects not far from us. And I met a very interesting character that you can ask me about.
Puggy.
No, it wasn't Puggy. Love Puggy, he was great. But you guys can ask me about it in person. It's a very strange story. The first time I stayed at home alone, they went out to a movie or the mall or maybe some party somewhere, and I didn't want to go, and I was 13 years old, and 13 was a lot of landmarks for me for some reason. And I decided to stay home, and they said, okay, we trust you, you can do this. So I spent the day by myself. I played, I think, some video games, and my friends across the street, Jimmy and Joey, were like, yeah, we're gonna go bike riding over by the train tracks. And I was like, awesome. So we all walked up the block to the train tracks, and there were like old buildings that were like torn down and abandoned, and there was like the foundations of concrete. And I remember, to be daring, to show everyone how cool I was, I took Jimmy's BMX bike and I rode along this maybe 3-foot wide concrete foundation wall because I thought it was cool, which is about 3 feet high. And of course, I rolled off the side and I fell off of it. And as I fell, it was one of those moments where you're kind of in shock and everything's in slow motion. Well, the slow motion, like as I went down, and I didn't put my hands out for some reason, so I landed on the side of my face and slid on the gravel and glass and everything else. And then I had to go home and wait for them to come home to find me. And we didn't have cell phones in that day, so there was no way of even telling them that I was injured. But they took me through it, and they really helped me a lot, and they made me feel at home. And I hate that injuries are even part of the list, but that's part of parenting and part of the life commitment you guys made. But the other one was when I got shot in the eye with a BB from MVP Tech. And we were wrestling with kids, and they made this homemade little BB thing out of a tube and a rubber glove finger. And I went blind in my one eye temporarily when one of the blood vessels broke. And I remember freaking out in the bedroom, and my dad came in, and he's like, come on, and he grabbed me and brought me to the car, and we went to the emergency room, and they patched me up, and like a week later, my eyesight came back. It was a scary time in my life, but something I definitely appreciate for a moment. Living in the trailer in Greenville, New York, when we were building the first house in Greenville. That was weird, but it was super fun. I remember, didn't we set up like a Commodore 64 to play video games on a crappy little mini TV or something? Ray was there, but that was actually a pretty great time. And spending the day with Aunt Mary at Grandpa's place on Staten Island. So one of the things that you guys used to let us do, we'd hang out with AJ and Jeannie and Jennifer, and all the kids would go to Grandpa's place and we'd hear all these stories about how they used to have chickens and all this other stuff. And it was just a really fun time. We'd play hide and seek because there was like so many horrible things that kids could injure themselves or hide behind in that place. But we really enjoyed it. Going upstairs, it's the rooms we shouldn't go into and hiding like in people's closets and eating their gumballs and stuff. It was a fun childhood. So, but with all that said, I just want to say thank you for having us. Well, thank you for being with us. I think is probably the better way to put it. We appreciate you. We don't always disagree on everything, but we do agree on one thing, that we are family and we stick with together and we try to do what's right for all of us. Cheers.